Alright class, everybody have their textbooks? Alright, good. Today we're on chapter 13, World War II begins. Now, as we were talking about the other day, World War I was one of the bloodiest wars that the world has ever seen. And World War II was not any better. But we wanted to stress today some of the things that happened so you get a better perspective of what actually happened during that war. So what I would like to do first off is to make sure that you keep these words in mind. We have a few vocabulary words. As we read the story, we want you to go ahead and understand them. The first one is dictator. The dictator will be Adolf Hitler. So make sure you keep that in mind when we're reading the chapter here in just a few minutes. Next is conquer. You'll find out what the word conquer means. Bombs as well. There were many bombs dropped in various places during World War II. So we're going to understand that a little more. Axis countries. Now we're going to be taking care of that in just a few minutes regarding the map we have up there. So pay attention to that. Appeasement. Appeasement we'll also address to make sure that you understand what that means. And concentration camps happened during the Holocaust when millions of Jews were put to death, literally. So the first thing that I'd like to go over with is, let's go ahead and start to read the chapter. And first off, let's go ahead and start with Anaya. Now, the thing about Anaya is, as you all know, she was in Bosnia, so she understands this a little bit better than all of us. So she has a better perspective from which she'll be talking about as far as the war was concerned. So let's start off by reading the chapters. Go ahead, Anaya. Okay, at this time I'm going to go ahead and read the chapters, what they would be reading. World War I ended in 1918. For many years there was peace in Europe. Why did World War II begin 21 years later? After World War I, Great Britain and France forced Germany to sign a treaty. Germans hated the treaty. It blamed Germany for World War I. It forced Germany to give its colonies to Great Britain and France. Life became very hard in Germany during the Great Depression. The German people wanted a new leader who would make them feel proud. In 1933, Adolf Hitler became the leader of Germany. Adolf Hitler was a dictator. He had full power to rule Germany. Many people who spoke against Hitler were killed. He said that Germans would conquer and rule much of Europe. Many Germans liked what Hitler said. Germany got ready for another war. Germans built airplanes, bombs, tanks, and ships. Italy and Japan also wanted to conquer and rule other countries. Germany, Italy, and Japan were called the Axis countries. They promised to help one another during the war. Great Britain, France, and some other countries were called the Allies. Some countries were neutral countries. They did not fight for the Axis countries or for the Allies. In 1938, Adolf Hitler began to conquer Europe. He forced Austria to become part of Germany. He then conquered the western part of Czechoslovakia. Great Britain and France had promised to help Czechoslovakia during a war. But Hitler said he would not attack any more countries in Europe. Great Britain and France gave in to Hitler in order to prevent a war. This was called appeasement. In September of 1939, Germany attacked Poland. This time, Great Britain and France sent soldiers to help Poland. World War II had begun. But the German army quickly conquered Poland. Then Germany attacked other countries in Europe as well. The French and British armies were not strong enough to stop the German army. Germany attacked France. German soldiers quickly captured the city of Paris. Thousands of British and French soldiers escaped from France in small boats. They went to Great Britain. They would continue to fight against Hitler. And in 1940, Germany ruled all of France. The years 1940 and 1941 were very bad years for the Allies. Italy was trying to capture northern Africa. Japan was attacking countries in Asia. Got lost. Germany had conquered many countries in Europe. At the start of the war, Germany and the Soviet Union agreed not to fight against each other. But in 1941, the German army attacked the Soviet Union. After that, the Soviet Union became one of the Allies. Hitler brought fear to all of Europe. People who spoke against Hitler were sent to concentration camps. These camps were like jail. Many people died in those camps. Hitler did not like Jewish people. His goal, in fact, was to kill all Jews. German soldiers forced Jews in most conquered countries to leave their homes. They sent the Jews on special trains to concentration camps. About 6 million, class, 6 million Jews were killed during World War II. The killing of millions of Jews is now called the Holocaust. Millions of other people were also killed by Germans. Most were killed in the concentration camps. Never before had so many been killed because of one leader. Great Britain was the only country in Europe that could fight against Hitler. The British had an excellent leader. His name was Sir Winston Churchill. He believed that many people in many nations would lose their freedom if Hitler won the war. Churchill said that Great Britain would never surrender to Hitler. In 1940, Germany tried to conquer Great Britain. German planes dropped thousands of bombs on British cities. Brave British pilots shot down hundreds of German planes. Great Britain remained free. Franklin Delano Roosevelt was the President of the United States at the time. He knew Great Britain needed to help to fight against Germany. The United States gave loans to Great Britain. The United States also sent food, weapons, and money as well. On December 7th, 1941, remember that date, December 7th, 1941. The Japanese attacked American planes, ships, and soldiers at Pearl Harbor. Pearl Harbor was an American naval base in Hawaii. The Japanese killed more than 2,000 American soldiers. They destroyed many American ships and planes. Americans were very, very angry. Of course, you would be too if you got bombed, right? The next day, the United States declared war on Japan. A few days later, Germany and Italy said they were at war with the United States. The Axis countries were winning the war in 1941. And we're going to go ahead and read chapter 14 to learn how the United States helped the Allies win the war. So that's a little bit of what happened during that time in World War II. Now I'd like to do is show you a video that highlights some of the things that happened during that time. So let me get the lights. And we'll give you a better perspective of what it was all about.
Attention, Kevin Torres, please report to the front office. You are leaving. Kevin Torres, please report to the front office. You are leaving. Thank you.
Go ahead and start that again. Let's let you hear everything. Okay, here we go.
At sea, Germany still ruled. Groups of U-boats called wolf packs prowled the waters of the Atlantic and Caribbean, searching for supply convoys headed to Britain. Their efforts crippled supply lines. By 1942, U-boats were sinking one ship every 4 hours. The Axis powers continued to expand. In 1940, after Japan signed an alliance with Germany and Italy, President Roosevelt froze all Japanese assets and embargoed oil and steel. In an attempt to diffuse the building tensions with diplomacy, Japanese and American officials met in Washington. But any hope for peace was crushed when the civilian premier was replaced by a belligerent militarist named General Tojo. In early 1940, the Secretary of the Navy warned that hostilities would begin with a surprise raid on Pearl Harbor. The attack came on the morning of December 7, 1941. while most naval personnel were still asleep.
I'll never forget the feeling that I had when you wake up like we did, out of a sound sleep, go out and see these planes pulling up with the orange balls on the wings, and realize that it was the Japanese. And your immediate reaction is, they wouldn't dare, number one. And number two, how did they get here without being spotted? They did have radar in those days. There was a flight of 17 B-17s flying into land at Hickam Field, which was the major bomber field down near Honolulu. And so there was a lot of air activity other than these strangers that were coming in. And there were two young men on the Signal Corps who wanted to stay on the radar just to track some of these other things. Suddenly they spotted these planes coming in while they were about 50 miles offshore. They reported it. And their lieutenant said, "Oh, don't worry about that. That's a bunch of our guys coming in from the States." And they continued to follow them right in over the mountains, right into Pearl Harbor.
Yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. The United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan. No matter how long it may take us to overcome this premeditated invasion, the American people in their righteous might will win through to absolute victory.
The attack on Pearl Harbor galvanized the nation's will to fight back. Swarms of men gathered at local enlistment stations. Women stepped into the production lines to fill the void, freeing men for active duty. Rosie the Riveter became the symbol of this newfound role for women.
Both in World War I and very much in World War II, they needed the women to come into the war industry and do the work, as the guys were drafted in the Army and the Navy, the GI. And suddenly, all the business of women's place in the home and so on and so forth, that wasn't that important. And now the women were needed in the war plant.
Without them, production would have slowed to a trickle and greatly affected the Allied effort. Not long after war was declared, the federal government ordered all persons of Japanese ancestry into internment camps.
We were evacuated in 1942. Our family ended up in the War Relocation Center in Tule Lake, California, which is near the Oregon border. It was a restricted environment, with a barbed wire fence all around, and they had guard towers, with armed guards. So in that sense, it was like a concentration camp.
For the remainder of the war, these loyal citizens were denied due process, suffering the shame of being prisoners simply because of their lineage. In Europe, racial injustice surged. In an effort to deal with the accumulating numbers of Jewish people in Nazi-occupied territory, Nazi leaders devised the final solution.
The final solution was a deliberate plan to murder all of Europe's 11 million Jews. In Mein Kampf, Hitler talked about the Jews, who were the subhumans of history, the cancer of every society, and that how we must rid ourselves of this cancer when the pressures of the Second World War came upon him. He decided to implement that. If you can't get rid of the Jews by sending them elsewhere, kill them.
Millions of Jews from all over Europe were sent to death camps to be systematically exterminated.
By the time we arrived in the largest extermination camp called Auschwitz-Birkenau, this train, I remember when I got off, I looked at the end of it and I couldn't see the end. It was miles long. Thousands of people were pouring out of this train. I just remember the horror of watching mothers looking for their children, and children screaming, "Mother, Dad, where are you?" If there is such a place as Lucifer's Inferno or Hell, this was definitely it.
Something else, wasn't it? So, let me turn the lights here. And then we're going to talk about a couple of assignments that we have. All right, the first thing that we're going to do is that we're going to go through the world map and show the direction that the war went during World War II. Now, we'll break you up into groups, and then you'll read in your book how that happened, and then you're going to get push pins that are colored according to the each one of the countries, and then we're going to map out as far as the direction of where the war went during that time. Also, we're going to work on, in fact, turn to page 88. We're also going to go on the internet, and we're going to talk about political cartoons. Now, as you can tell on page 88, follow with me, political cartoons are pictures made by artists. Sometimes a political cartoon shows the artist's opinion about every event or person. The political cartoon below is about the start of World War II. Now, as you can tell, it is a picture of a swastika. Picture of a swastika. It was the symbol of Adolf Hitler's Germany. In the cartoon, the artist used a rolling swastika to show that Germany was planning a new attack on Europe. Now, we're going to have you go on the internet and look for political cartoons that have to do with World War II. In addition, we're going to go ahead and answer questions as well regarding the chapter. And you're going to work in groups to make sure so that everybody understands what's going on and you can help those who may need a little more help. Any questions so far? Okay, good. Let's go ahead and get in our groups right now and go ahead and go over that. And then the lesson would be where they would get in their groups, they would go over this, and then they would look at the book, do the question and answer session, and then they would do a presentation regarding the pictures that they found on the internet that we printed on the computers that we have here. And then they'll do a quick presentation in class. And then after that, the lesson's done. And that's it. Thank you.